There's this idea that once we build the website and once we kind of print out the cards, they will come. Getting out there and getting in front of people, whether you do it in person or like whether you're literally pounding the pavement or whether you're doing it on social media, that is a really big piece of the puzzle. And for the most part, the bootstrapping narrative amongst women is really very prevalent.
Hey, and welcome to this live conversation all about the series Women, Wealth, and Worthiness. I am so glad you can join me today. I have some guests coming up over the next few days as well. And today I am so grateful for the guest who is joining me today, someone who I got to know in the online space, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And she's here now. I'm going to just introduce her before I bring her on. And what's so beautiful is the fact that I've gotten to witness her growing in her craft, serving people well, and seeing the journey that she's been on in doing the work that she loves so much. People are getting so much value from her, and her name is Alexandra Hughes. She's been on the podcast before. She's joined me here on Instagram as well. She is a messaging strategist, converting ethical messaging for feminist, soul-led entrepreneurs. So if you are really concerned about the way that you're being perceived, wanting to be able to share your message in a really holistic, ethical way, reaching people where they're at for a soul-led business, this is the conversation you want to be having today. So I'm going to ask her to join now. And there'll be a little pause, but she'll be here in just a moment. And here she is. I almost feel like we should have like on hold dance music for while Instagram connects us, and just kind of bust a move. Everybody a dance break.
Then we come on dancing, Sheila.
That's right. How are you doing, Alexandra?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on your incredible IG Live series. I'm so excited about this, Sheila.
Oh, thank you. I've been so excited to deliver it. And it's one of those things, just like anything, right? For all of us in this space where we are creative entrepreneurs, we have ideas and ideas and ideas. And I mean, I know our design may have something to do with it, but I think there's something about the entrepreneurial space that is, there's just kind of a personality around being an entrepreneur where you're surrounding yourself with other entrepreneurs very often, and also just getting so many ideas and realizing, okay, how do we manage this? But knowing that so many can really play off each other. And so I love the work that you do in the world. Alexandra, I would love for you, I've introduced you myself, but I would love for you to share in your own words, which you're famous for doing on your podcast. What is your bio? What is your work in the world in your own words?
Thank you for Sheila. And, just for everybody listening, it's really important for me to share right now that this has been an evolving journey for me. Just this answer to your question, what is it that you do in the world, right? And it shifts and it changes as you evolve. If you happen to be one of those people who is constantly up leveling, as I think women entrepreneur constantly are, putting ourselves into, that expression, how a picture conveys 1,000 words. Well, for those of us who are offering services in our businesses, we don't have a picture of what it is we're selling. We have to create that picture in 1,000 words. And so that's exactly what I do for people. I help people who look at the blank page with their fingers stuck in a paralyzed position on their keyboards. I help them to find those words. Those people who have a difficult time telling their story, speaking about who they are, speaking about how amazing they are, speaking about how their story actually makes them perfectly positioned to do what they do, talking about what they offer and why it's so valuable, and packaging that all up in a way that is authentic, but that also feels in integrity with who they are. So they're proud of what they've got on their website, on their social media feeds, and so that it all kind of cohesively and comprehensively speaks to one another. You're being consistent everywhere. And I have found, so this is my third business, and I have found that that messaging component is absolutely critical and sometimes really, really hard. It's hard to talk about ourselves. And as women, it's even more hard to talk about ourselves because we haven't been socialized to be visible, and we haven't been socialized to sell. And so that shy, kind of shy with words, shy with online presence, all of that, it doesn't work. We need to be bold. We need to be the opposite. And that's what I help people do. I help people be bold and unapologetic, authentic, and ethical in the way they present themselves, so that when they look at their website or when they look at their feeds or when they look at their emails, they're like, yeah, that's me, 100%, no apologies. That's me in my power. So that's what I do.
And it is a beautiful gift because I 100% agree with you. It's one of the hardest things to really nail down, because when I'm dealing with clients and just hearing from colleagues as well they have so many things that they can be doing that they're so good at, especially the longer you live and the more curious you are, the more certifications you get, the more seminars you go to, the more people you meet, the more you learn how to do things really, really well. To actually narrow it down to one thing that you're doing is challenging. And then bake in all those other ethical things and those societal things that you just mentioned that often do not get addressed. It's like, oh, just, get the message clear, get out there. It's not that simple. And so I love how you've shared that. And really what people need to understand, and I've worked with you personally as well, and you've helped me really nail down my messaging and allow me to have a perspective about it that helps me have clarity as I am adding in other pieces and as I'm evolving as an entrepreneur myself and in the work that I serve with. The fact that you can think cohesively. You're not just like, say it like this. You're thinking messaging, branding. You're thinking packaging, positioning, and selling. All of it. Like, you understand because you've done all of those things and you've done them well. And so as a result, it's so much more than just having a guide who's helping you with your messaging. It's really, you're right in there at the center of the ecosystem of the business. So I love what you do. And I love what you've helped me with. It's been a huge blessing, because often I'll find myself writing something and I'm like, ooh, what would Alex say right now? How would she say it? How would Alex say it? And often the thing is, it's the transparency, right? It's the transparency of something that's going to help people really resonate, because I've been finding, we talk a lot, and I'd love for you to share actually about some of the things that really do help people create more connection with their messaging and their copy around storytelling. And I will say a personal story that just happened yesterday. I had put out a post and it got 10x the views and engagement that I've gotten for a while. And it was just a random little thought about a regret I had. And so the word vulnerable comes to mind, right? And I think people are craving vulnerable, honest, open communication. And that's where the ethics come in, right? It's so easy for people to see oh, look, everything's wonderful. Here I am, but not talking about the journey. So maybe speak to that a little bit with how you guide people and what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Sheila, we are all human with hearts, with vulnerabilities, with painful stories, and with celebrations to share. And we're messy, we're messy. And I think that for a really long time, and capitalism preys on this, we have been in this business space where we've been told that to show up, we have to be perfect, right? We have to present ourselves as perfect, or at the very least, 100 steps ahead of those people that we're meant to serve. And there is definitely value in being a few steps ahead of the people that you're here to serve. But I think what's happening in today's online space is that those sort of more aggressive, pushy, salesy, icky tactics that might have some false promises woven in, false urgency woven in, I have noticed in myself and in people that I associate with a real turnoff. Like people are really getting, for me, it's actually visceral, getting really turned off by this sort of really pushy, aggressive, we can call it bro marketing. I've heard people call it mean girl marketing, or mean girl messaging. And we have lost sight of the fact that there is a human at the other end, a messy human at the other end, and that you happen to be a messy human too. And that actually what really matters here is not only the cognitive connection, so not only the sense of knowing from the neck up that, hey, they have something that could help me, but an emotional connection. And so people speak to pain points a lot in traditional copy and traditional marketing would say, drill in on the pain points, like really like dive in there and make them see how much agony they're in order to, what is lacking, highlight the lack. But when you turn it around and when you realize that the reason that works is because you're evoking an emotion and you want to approach this ethically, then instead of evoking an emotion that causes pain, let's bring on emotions that invite curiosity, that actually allow for people to see, your readers to see, that maybe they are struggling with something that you understand, but look what it could be like. Look, this is what your vision is, and this is how I can help you get there. And it's not your fault that you're struggling. In many cases, it's a systemic thing.
Yeah.
It's a systemic thing. And when people start to realize that it's a systemic thing, and that actually they are simply part of a broader system, but that you can help them to step out of that system, question that system, be in your power in order to be a change maker for that system, then they're really on board because they're empowered, they're inspired, they're educated, and they're like, oh, I can trust this person because she's telling me a truth that really resonates really deeply with me, So I don't know if that answers your question. Does that answer your question?
It does. And actually, it's so great because I love that you gave that outline, because it's not so much from what I've understood, not just from you, from my own experience as well. When I'm thinking about it from like, having that connection, it's not about completely, in my opinion, not completely about avoiding like, what is that resistance or that pain they're experiencing? Because certainly, just like we don't want someone to be continuing to be in pain, we want to help them with a solution, understanding like what's their experience. And so really asking the questions and listening, and then knowing, okay, this is their experience. Okay, so you want something different. Like, how do you feel about it? Because how you feel about it is really, really important. The question then becomes, how long do you want to remain in that scenario? And like, what do you want? Like you speaking to their vision, to their dreams, to their desires, but like having a connection, not completely throwing it out, but also not preying upon it. Being, like you said, that open-hearted person who's asking questions, wanting to offer a solution, a true solution.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the thing. And this was the interesting, like from what you've said, it really ties in nicely to what my experience with that social post was, that it's very easy to come across like, hello, I'm the expert. Let me tell you this and this and this. And it becomes less interesting for people. They want to be met where they're at. Even though there might be aspirations there, they want to be met where they're at. So it's more like an understanding of, hey, look, I've been where you are. I've been in a similar place, or I've been in a place that really could be challenging, and yet there is a way to overcome, and like showing how you overcame that, but not from a place of entitlement, from just like a true story situation, mostly wanting to understand the other person though. Like I think inviting that curiosity is so, so important. So I love how you broke that down, because it feels more relaxing, and it allows people to actually lean in, want to learn more, and feel cared for through the process, instead of like, oh no, walls come up. I feel like people are very smart. Walls come up. Oh no, when's the pitch coming? When's the pitch coming? Right? When really we just want to serve people. We want to help with something that they're trying to alleviate in their life, something they're trying to achieve, some type of transformation. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And you know this because you've come through the whole, like you came through the training of the traditional marketing way. You've seen how it works. You've seen the inside. You've gotten results that way. But tell me, what's the difference now? Maybe because you've seen both ways. What is the difference that you've experienced in marketing two different ways?
I think that there's a trend, a collective trend that's shifting because the online consumer is becoming more conscious, and because I'm just going to say, like, there's an increasing amount of money in the hands of women business owners.
Yeah.
And what I'm witnessing is that a lot of women or female founders are really here to, and I love this expression. I know that Asha Frost uses it a lot, and I want to really appreciate that it comes from Indigenous wisdom. It's a very simple expression, which is just to walk the path in a good way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of, people who are concerned about the environment, about social justice, about world peace are in business, and they want to walk it in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're rejecting this sort of old school bro mean girl, like I said. So there's this collective shift that's happening as people seek more authentic, more ethical, but more aligned with their values, marketing approaches and messaging approaches. And so I'm getting a little bit of a brain fart happening at the moment. Just a moment.
It'll come. It's gonna land. It's gonna
land. Okay, this is what I was going to say. So there's that collective thing happening, and this is where I think that the woo might come in, Sheila. Energetically, when someone is writing from their heart, from their soul, like I shifted into doing, it felt good to me because I was in integrity with myself. I felt whole. I felt as though I was honoring myself. And what's interesting is that conversions and sales increased. Because I think energetically, when we are aligned with our values, when our heart feels good and solid, in what we're saying and how we're communicating, how we're doing business, it's felt on the other end, Sheila. So there's these two things happening. There's this collective shift, and then there's this individual shift that happens when you choose to be in integrity with yourself in everything that you do. And I think that humans, because we're human, feel it. And that's why things turn around. I mean, that's kind of the woo explanation. It makes sense as well, like from a marketing perspective, of course, because if you create messaging and copy that resonates emotionally with the other person, we must remember that a person will forget what you said, but they won't forget how you made them feel. And this is true for in-person, right? Conversations and connections, but it's also true for online conversations. So if when you write, you are you are educating someone about where they're at and why this isn't about them lacking something. This isn't about something being wrong with them and therefore they have to buy the product. This is a systemic issue, and this is why you find yourself here. And you know what? I might have something, and there's no, maybe there's real urgency, and that's fine. If there's real urgency, you speak to the real urgency. Surely there are pain points. That's fine, as long as we're not aiming to trigger or activate their nervous system and make them uncomfortable and feel bad about themselves. We can still speak to those pain points in gentle and respectful ways. But then through that entire process, we have all experienced the icky, salesy, pushy person, and it's just so repelling. Mm-hmm. But because we believe that we've lacked something or that we're missing something inside that they can solve for us, then they actually end up buying. But imagine if they were buying because they feel empowered and because they feel connected and because they feel trust. like real, authentic, full body trust. Then you have a long-term client who there's, rapport and resonance with, and it's just so much easier for everybody involved and so much more pleasurable for everybody involved. It's just about being human and being honest about who you are and having, I think the key is really, Sheila, like I was just at a networking meeting and we went around the table and introduced ourselves, and the ideas behind these businesses are so beautiful. But I can guarantee, because after speaking to them, I can guarantee that it's not all properly captured in some of their websites because it's so hard to write about ourselves.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
I love that you said that. And you touched on like the icky sales. And I will tell you, I love sales. I love sales. I didn't always love sales because I used to identify it with the ickiness, because back when I got into the whole sales marketing space, it was, late 80s. And so things have changed a little, but there's still the undertones that can exist. And I realized I learned a lot of what I didn't want to do. But when I learned that really sales is just a transfer of value for value, and it's an exchange. It's like, ooh, you're helping someone get what they want. If you have something beautiful to offer and somebody wants it, like, yes, here, let's do an exchange. And in our society, money's exchanged, and money can do beautiful things. I think money's amazing, and more money in more hands of incredible women and humans who are conscious. Yes, please. And so my whole mindset around and the feeling in my body around sales really shifted because I learned that it is about that connection. And so it was about exactly that. It was visceral and you could feel it. And when I changed how I felt about the process, sales started to happen. Many sales started to happen, like very successful business started to happen. And so I think the same thing is true when we are offering something, when we're writing about something. But we do need to get comfortable talking about ourselves. And that's where having someone like yourself, having a coach, a mentor, and somebody actually dealing with the messaging to listen to you, describe what it is that you've experienced, and then what it is that you offer and the transformation you've helped people achieve, and capture that like a third party. It's beautiful, right? It's like, we did this one experience way back in a personal development space I was in. We had like weekend retreats, and everyone at the table, like the person to the right of you, needed to write about all the qualities they appreciated in you. And you would do that about the person to your right. And then they would read them back, and we're all crying. And I have to tell you, I found it very, very hard to receive. Because I'm like, what? No. And it was like, no. And so it was that I was like my early 20s, right? So learning how to accept a compliment was very, very difficult because, good girls are not high on themselves. They're very modest. And, good girls, you don't shine too brightly and all these things. So when you're helping people with their messaging, it's not just, oh, this is what I do, put it on a page, people will read it. There's like generations of stuff that comes up around it. And I love that you can speak to that and you can understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a real time saver for a lot of business owners, because all I need is an hour and a half of their time. You did it, where they speak from their heart and soul. I'll put them in a place of relaxation. They've got their parasympathetic nervous system in state of chill, and from there they can really speak passionately about their vision and their mission. And from there I can draw all their unique value proposition. I can craft and put into words their core messages, so that they've got this messaging guide that they can pin up next to their laptop. And so for any podcast, any blog, any email they sit down to write, their compass is there. They know where they're going and what they need to say. I mean, how many times have we hopped onto a podcast or an IG live or to write a blog, and we're like, what am I going to write about? And then you sit there frustrated and annoyed with yourself. Well, imagine if it was very clear to you what you had to write about, because a lot of the time what we forget is that when we have a business and it's a service-based business, and it's maybe niched, maybe we're multi-passionate, you know, and we're drawing in all certification number 5 and certification number 6. And, you know, we're trying to sort of draw that all in to one cohesive piece of messaging. It can just become completely overwhelming, and we can go into shutdown. And we can also go into shutdown because, like you said, good girls don't shine too brightly, right? So there's just so many reasons that it can get in the way. But I want to speak also, Sheila, to the value of this series and the importance of talking about women investing in themselves and in, you know, the worthy piece. Because, so like I said, this is my 3rd business. I've done it many different ways, and I've witnessed lots of different people do it in many different ways. But a lot of the time, we invest in maybe the cards and the website, and that's kind of the initial investment. The people that I've seen grown the fastest are the people who invest in themselves in big ways, and who know that I have this new policy, Sheila. When I've procrastinated on something for, I give it about 3 months, but I know that's very generous. But 3 months, I outsource it because I know it's like the return on investment. 3 months, you know, the return on investment to outsource something is just so high. I'm a cobbler without shoes right now. My website is under construction because I'm having a hard time with my messaging. So what am I going to do? I'm going to hire someone to do my website and to help me. We've actually made an arrangement, and we're going to co-do the messaging because I can't let it go. But just to speak to the fact that if you're stepping into business and there's something you don't know how to do, you can DIY it and it'll take you 5 years, or you can hire someone who knows how to do it and it'll take you 1. And I would just invite you to think a little bit about what that 5 years is costing you in terms of time and what could actually happen in those 5 years. So I just want, you know, messaging is my passion. I mean, and you know that I have other passions, like holding ceremonies for women entrepreneurs who are up leveling. Like that's another passion that I have. But it's true for anything, Sheila. It's true for someone who struggles with their self-care and who doesn't understand the value of it, and who's like in this hustle mode all the time, and who just can't slow down and doesn't know what to prioritize. Okay, guess what? You can save yourself 5 years by hiring Sheila. You know, it's just, it's true, right? But we don't think that way.
And the reason why, and I think it comes back, and I'm so glad you turned the conversation to I think this is also valuable, and I know these are shorter episodes, but I'm so loving this because this whole idea of women investing in themselves, it's something that historically has not really been much of a thing. I mean, women, well, I don't even know what year it was in Canada when women could actually get a mortgage on a home themselves, right? Without getting a male cosigner to help them, right? So it is in our genes, in our bones, to be like, oh, I don't know, can I be trusted to like put a business plan together and actually put it out there? And now hats off to the many women that I know who do those things. Like they are fabulous women in my life, mentors in many ways. But then there's that bootstrapping mentality that is far more common for women in business starting out, where they're like, well, once I make some money, then I will invest in XYZ. But like you say, it can take so many years of them trying so many different things and not actually getting traction. Whereas were they to actually realize there are ways for them to invest by invest in their business by, you know, a variety of different ways of getting investment capital, those things exist. And now I'm happy to see more people are talking about that. That is becoming more accessible in different groups. So I love that you mentioned that. And I think it is that worthiness piece though, like how much of that do you feel really comes up when you are meeting with a new client? Like, do you kind of feel it early on, kind of to understand where they're at on the worthiness scale? Like if they're going gung ho, ready to go, how quickly they are to join you versus maybe dragging their feet?
So the women that I tend to work with are established business owners, and they've been in the game for a little while. So they understand the value of messaging because they've either struggled with it for a while, or maybe they've had more than one business, and they know that it's a real key. Like if you are speaking the language of the person you're trying to serve, there will be an immediate connection, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not that tricky when I'm selling to those people, but I think it's the people or the women for the most part who are in their earlier stages of the game that don't see the value. So in that kind of a situation, I need to kind of, or I try to educate and explain the value. I think that there's this idea that once we once we build the website and once we kind of print out the cards, they will come.
The Field of Dreams, that is like fun movie, but it's not really true.
well, it hasn't been my experience anyway. So, like getting out there and getting in front of people, whether you do it in person or like whether you're literally pounding the pavement or whether you're doing it on social media, that is a really big piece of the puzzle. And I think sometimes it takes a few years for people to understand that investment is worth its while. But I do have to say, Sheila, that for the most part, the bootstrapping narrative amongst women is really very prevalent. It's so interesting how men that I have worked with, that I know, have drawn up that business plan and gone to the bank and gotten the money, built their team and moved forward that way. And women that I know are, well, bootstrapping it. I saved $50 on groceries, just going to pop that into my business fund. Who's going to grow faster?
Right.
Right.
It's that word you mentioned, opportunity cost, right? My husband being a CPA, it's something we talk about all the time. It's like, okay, if we don't do this, then what are we missing out on? Like, what kind of growth? Like, you think about it with investing, right? Like, you see an opportunity, you've got a chunk of money. Here's the thing people need to understand. And this is why entrepreneurship is not for everyone. Risk is going to be involved, right? You're going to have to take a step. But I think the thing that people don't fully think about is there's this idea that entrepreneurship can be risky. Betting on yourself is risky. It's safe to go and to work for another person or business. But that person took a risk on themselves. And we just came through a time where there's some longstanding businesses that they no longer exist, right? Because of something that happened in the economic climate. So really, everything has an opportunity cost, but I think we need to invite ourselves to start banking on ourselves, trusting ourselves for something that is real. That's actually why I'm very passionate about having multiple streams of income as well, because it helps you flow through the times where maybe there could be some uncertainty financially. But I think ultimately it is about self-trust.
Yes.
And belief in what can you bring to the table? Yes. What is the work you're meant to be doing? And you are really beautiful at aligning people with that, reminding them of that. And but the self-trust piece is big. And also just really recognizing what is your risk tolerance and then letting that guide you. And it's okay either way. Letting themselves off the hook.
Yeah.
Their journey does not need to look like everybody else's.
No, and you know what, Sheila? Like, I know you're an affiliate for the Relaxed Money program, and I think it's that kind of a program that, everybody has a unique relationship with money, right? Yeah. But I think that investing in healing that relationship is really important because it supports your nervous system. Yeah. First of all, it brings about an incredible awareness, of your relationship with money and of what your risk tolerance is and why. And then you can kind of play with that narrative and come to a place where you feel like, okay, my risk tolerance is this, not due to fear and childhood trauma and all that stuff, but because that's where my values are right now.
Yeah.
And so that's a very different place
Yeah.
for you to start making decisions. And I'm not advocating, I have seen and I've heard of a lot of, like, you know, 5-figure programs for entrepreneurs, or even for women entrepreneurs, that are guaranteeing, like, and then you'll make $1 million, you know, do this for 5 weeks and then you make $1 million. And it's, or, you know, scale up to 6 figures in 6 weeks or something. You know, that's not, those are, I think that we need to be very discerning about what we choose to invest in for our businesses and for ourselves. So I'm not advocating you just like I've lost a lot of money on online courses, and it's one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about ethical messaging, because I've fallen for the mean girl or bro messaging or whatever we want to call it, and I've lost money. But that doesn't mean that every investment is a bad investment.
Right.
It just means you come in consciously and in a discerning way. And if it resonates with you, see what you can. And I'm also not really keen on going into huge amounts of credit card debt, but I have been in credit card debt around my business. And, you know, and I like, there's no one way fits all solution for everybody. Investing with discernment and consciousness, and as healed a relationship or conscious relationship you can with money, I think is probably an important first step for entrepreneurs, amongst other things.
Oh, absolutely. Because it is the energy that you do everything with comes from that place, like how you're feeling. And it kind of, we've come full circle now back to really what you were talking about. Like, if you're able to, you know, invest in your business and make the steps and then do the copy and have the messaging saying what really resonates for you, then you're able to call in the clients and the level of business that you're looking to create. So it is all very, it's all very cohesive. It's all come to, it's a holistic experience, really. And because we're humans and we're multifaceted, we have all these stories we've come through. It's not necessarily the easiest thing, but I will say, like, this journey is probably one of the most interesting and exciting experiences of self-discovery that people will ever have, because you start to learn really, what are you made of? What are you meant for? And you will find exactly what it is that you know, really you're meant to be doing with your life in this world, instead of just like same thing day in, day out, right? Like, it's exciting. It's really exciting. Oh my goodness. I love that we were able to touch on all these different things today, Alex. And I love your take on things. It's definitely something that people don't talk about enough, I feel. All of these things that kind of, they run beneath the surface all the time as we are going through our day-to-day in our lives, our businesses, and they impact our relationships, all of it, right? So I would love for you to share, before we close off, what you have going on right now, anything that you want to bring to everyone's attention that they can be checking out that you have in creation right now.
Oh, thank you, Sheila. Yeah, I would love to share that. So if anybody is looking for some expert eyes on their online presence, so that would include your website and maybe some of your social media feeds, and you just want to have someone sort of check in on whether your message is getting across the way it's supposed to, whether you're being cohesive and coherent and consistent with your messaging across all platforms, I currently have a messaging audit that's available for people. And so they can DM me, I guess, on Instagram. And maybe you could DM me the word audit and I can send you the details. And I'm also, for a small group of kind of dreamy clients, I'm looking for dream clients because I'm building up my case study portfolio. And so clients who feel like the perfect match for me should reach out to me. I work with like multi-passionate, soul-led niche service providers who have an online presence and are interested in marketing through that online presence. I have a 50% discount for my messaging foundation bundle. And that's that guide that you have next to your laptop with your soul mission, your soul vision, your unique value proposition, your umbrella core message, and then your 3 to 5 core messages so that anytime you have to, speak about what you do and who you are and what your story is and why it's all so important, you've got that referral document. I cannot tell you, Sheila, how much time I would have saved if I had something like that.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's helped me enormously, especially with all the extra tools we have to help make our lives easier these days too. So yeah, you're not wondering anymore. I love that.
No, you're not wondering. You're not distracted. You've got it. It's the focus that you have been missing, right? For any kind of piece of content that you create. And sometimes people appreciate it and then they hire me to create content that's in line with that. And sometimes they don't, and they give it to their team and they create content, or they write it themselves if they enjoy writing. So those are the two things. I have 3 more spaces for the Dreamy Client Messaging Foundation bundle, and the audit is open for however long. It's a really nice way to just kind of check in and see if who you are and what you do and why all of that is the solution for your people is aligned with the way you present yourself in the world.
I love it. I so appreciate everything you bring to it. And most of all, the heart that you bring to everything that you do. That is the magic. And because we're all about like the divine downloads, it's not a linear journey. Like so many stories I'll be sharing here for listeners and viewers about things that have been happening for me where I'll have an idea for one thing and then something like way better happens. It just lands that I literally had nothing to do with it. I was there to receive it. I was prepared to receive it. And I feel like you help line people up to be in that energy in their own lives and businesses. So thank you for your work.
Thank you, Sheila. Well, we're all here to weave the wisdom of the feminine into businesses and lives. So yeah, thanks for having me here today. I just love chatting with you.
Always. And we'll have you back again. There'll be more downloads and things to share. So everyone stay tuned for this conversation series. It's going to be ongoing, the Women, Wealth, and Worthiness. And please be aware also that you can watch this replay here on Instagram. I'll also be repurposing it to my podcast, Connect with Sheila Botelho. I didn't say off the top, my whole focus is self-care strategy. And so with that in mind, if you're interested in listening to other episodes of the podcast, just comment podcast and you'll be able to get connected to that. But you can watch for this one coming soon. And please, if you, what was the word that you said for them to put in the comments if they're interested in
audit? You could put the word audit.
Yes, audit. Okay, so type the word audit.
Just so it's clear, maybe messaging audit. I don't know.
Yeah, either or, messaging or audit, whichever works for you, whichever one you can spell.
Sheila, thanks so much for having me today.
Such a pleasure, Alex. And thank you everyone for joining, and we will see you again.